Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Whatcom County Council meeting for September 13th, 2016. Could you please call the roll?
Barbara Brenner.
Here.
Red Brown.
Here.
Barry Buchanan.
Here.
Todd Donovan.
Here.
Ken Mann.
Here.
Satpal Sidhu.
Here.
Carl Weimer.
Here. Thank you. Would you please rise and join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a couple of announcements. If you have your cell phones with you, please either turn them off or to vibrate. And if you'll be handing out any paperwork up here to us council members, please include a copy for the clerk for our records. Thanks. We'll move into our public hearing. Audience members who signed up at the back of the room prior to the beginning of the meeting will be called first and asked to form lines. If you're unable to sign up, don't worry, we'll be able to have time to take your testimony. We would like each speaker to state his or her name for the record, and you'll be given 3 minutes to address the council. And the council staff will keep track, and they'll give you a 30-second warning, and then when they'll give you a stop when 3 minutes is up. Our public hearing tonight is a resolution approving the Whatcom County 6-year Transportation Improvement Program for the years 2017 through 2022. Do we have any staff report at all? Okay, no staff report. We have no one signed up for the hearing, but if you would like to speak on the 6-year Transportation Improvement Program, please come down.
Wendy Harris. I just wanted to raise awareness that our greatest health risks, environmental health risks in Whatcom County are from traffic and wood smoke. And so I don't know if there's anything in the tip that can address some of the health impact concerns. But I do know things like level of service we need to start thinking of in terms of health impacts and not just inconvenience and travel time. So if there's anything possible that could be done to improve public health and safety with regards to roads, I would be interested in hearing from staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the 6-year Transportation Improvement Program?
It's my first time here. Cool. Excuse me. Just had a little minor surgery today, so I'm walking a little funny. My name is David Stritch, and I had a chance to look at all 118 pages of that because of this 6-year plan, because I'm interested in a couple of safety areas over where I live off Marine Drive, and I'll talk about that later. But to speak directly to the plan, it looked pretty comprehensive. I think Joe's team did a good job of putting it together, and obviously there's a lot of work y'all have to consider. And seeing how many bridges need work, it seems like the county has its work cut out for itself. So I'll talk later about some other traffic considerations I'd like to bring up. But yeah, I liked what I read in that report.
Okay.
Now's the hearing for transportation stuff and signs and everything. If there's something, you just said you'll talk about that later?
It wasn't directly related to the report. It was more about speed limits and things in a different area, so I can talk about that.
He's got you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. What's the wishes of the council?
Mr. Chair, I move approval with a caveat that I want to remove one item for a separate vote.
Okay.
Which one?
It is project R4, for which I wish to abstain.
Project 4, what page are you on?
419.
Okay, take that as a motion. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to accept everything except for one item that Mr. Brown would like to abstain on. So that is project,
It's listed as R4.
the Horton Road
Yep.
Northwest Drive to Aldridge Road. Okay. Joe?
Did you want me to bring that up, or?
What? Joe needs to bring
There-
something
there is
We
an
have another item
amendment
that needs to be.
I requested of Councilmember Brenner that I can put in front of everybody here, and that is Project Y6, which is Fish Passage. And I'm looking at the actual resolution that we're passing, so it is on page 402, page 402, Fish Passage. Years 1 and 2, we've already identified a Fish Passage project, and that's our Slater Road, Jordan Creek culvert replacement. But I would request that we have $10,000 in year 1 of Fish Passage, so that if anything rears its head in 2017, we have some money to act on it. So that would then allow that $10,000 to be in the annual construction program and then in the budget for 2017.
Joe, which category? PE, RW, CN?
PE. PE only if we were going to move with any right-of-way acquisition or construction, we'd be back in front of you.
Okay. Any further discussion on Mr. Brown's motion?
No, but we need to make a motion on that.
Yeah, do we need to?
Yeah.
Let's do this one first. Let's do his first.
Okay.
I'll move to amend Mr. Brown's motion with the information we just got from Mr. Rutan, which is Fish Passage Y6, adding 10,000 to the, I guess it's PE, preliminary or professional engineering line in year 1, which is 2017, adding 10,000.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Brenner?
I'm just a little confused. I think they should be two separate motions.
I think,
I thought Mr. Brown's motion was for the overall resolution.
Oh, yeah, but he wanted, okay.
He says he's gonna,
Okay,
he wants to pull one
Fine.
out, but
he didn't.
he
make
hasn't
the
made that motion
Okay.
yet, yeah, so
Right.
So just to clarify, are you moving to amend?
I am moving to amend Mr. Brown's motion.
You're
or-
moving to
Oh.
amend the resolution.
To amend the
To
order.
include what?
I'll make it easy. I'll withdraw my motion for
yeah,
that.
okay. Yeah, we
Yeah,
did
we'll
have
take one
that was
step
still
at
on
a
the
time.
floor. So.
Okay,
So Mr. Mann's motion is purely to amend, right?
To amend with the $10,000 for
Yes.
the.
well,
Fish-
I mean, I don't know what I'm amending if there's no motion on the floor, so,
Well, you're making the motion.
okay, fine. I move we approve the STIP with one change. Now, do I need to make that change?
Move to approve the resolution and then move to amend the resolution.
Okay, that's what I thought we were
Thank you.
doing.
But then we need to move out part 4.
Correct.
Let's stay with Mr. Brown's motion of,
He already moved that.
he moved it, yes, and to remove the one project. So now, Mr. Mann can amend that motion.
But
Right.
that's not the one you want to.
Take it as a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
You will? Okay, so so Mr. Brown accepts as a friendly amendment, adding the $10,000 for year 1 in the category Fish Passage Project under the PE line. Everyone got it? No, Ms. Brown Davis does not approve of our protocol here.
I'm sorry, what the process that should happen is to move approval of the resolution and then move to amend it.
That's
if
what
you
we
wanna
did.
make
Mr. Brown
changes.
moved to approve the resolution, and it was
With
seconded.
one change, which,
Well,
Yeah, I'm sorry, that
he warned us he was gonna amend it, but he didn't actually.
so then but you stated, I believe, that you were going to amend
His
Mr.
motion.
Brown's motion. So
We're off to a
they
flying
should be
start.
two separate motions.
It's been a long day.
All right, so
All right, I don't understand why, but I'll let the clerk and the chair work it out.
Okay, Mr. Brown's was clear that he wanted one item removed that he wanted to abstain from. So we're gonna end up with a dog chasing its tail here, I think.
you want to deal with that one?
I
and
could
then
do
just
it.
move on?
I could do the whole thing.
Do Mr. Brown's motion, and then we will add the 10K
That's
for,
what I think we should
Yeah.
do, yes.
That's what I.
But the clerk didn't like that.
So Mr. Brown's motion
No,
is to
she- that's what
approve?
she wanted us to do.
Mr. Brown's motion is to approve?
Yes.
All but number 4.
Don't
But aren't we
say
going
Don't do that part.
Just
Don't-
move to amend and
Move
then
to amend,
amend
and
to
you can
remove
amend
that
All
one.
right,
Move to approve the
to
resolution.
approve,
Yeah, just move to.
period.
no, someone else will move to approve it.
I will move that. I move the approval of the 6-year transportation plan
I'll
as
second.
presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Any
Now
dis-
we can entertain
discussion?
amendment.
Now, I would like to move that we add $10,000 in year one under Fish Passage Project to the line for engineering.
Second.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously.
And then I move to amend by removing item R4.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Discussion? Mr. Weimer?
Why we,
So we're going to bring that back and discuss it separately. Is that correct?
The 6 of you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not just removing it
Well,
Yeah.
maybe,
temporarily.
Temporarily,
I like,
can you explain why you're doing this?
I have property near that location. I don't feel I should be voting on it.
He's recusing himself.
Okay.
Just recusing myself.
I don't know how you recuse yourself from one item out of the whole plan.
We vote on the whole plan without that item, then we vote separately as 6
On
of
the
us.
one
To
item.
put it back in?
Yeah,
no,
Okay.
vote on that one item.
pretty weird.
It works.
it works, yeah, it's fine.
Just an abundance of caution to avoid conflict.
This is
Yeah,
what happens
that's
when you
fine.
had too long a vacation.
Okay, so now we have the motion to amend by removing the item. So discussion. Ms. Brenner?
Well, I am going to support it. I would like us not, I'd like us to eliminate that anyway. I think it hasn't, it not only hasn't been shown to me, there is no way that traffic is already at the worst level it can be right around that intersection at Bakerview, Northwest, and whatever else is there. And it's not going to get better. And I don't think we're allowed to make things worse, and that's going to make it worse. It's going to funnel all that traffic in, then Costco's going to, because of that, I think, they're going to move over there. That's going to be horrible. Already now, I mean, people can't shop at Fred Meyer very easily unless it's late at night or early in the morning. So I just don't support it.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now, Mr. Brown, do you want to?
I think I move to reinsert R4.
Well, no, we voted to remove it. Now I move forward, now I move the motion forward to vote for the whole thing less R4,
Okay,
Okay,
and then you guys can put it back in if you
gotcha.
want,
That's
should
what
you choose
I was
to.
just
Oh,
a
so
step
we
ahead.
step ahead, yeah.
Yeah.
We're out of practice, you can tell. We had this
You know,
5 weeks off.
I want to, can I ask a question? I mean, I appreciate what you're doing here, Mr. Brown, but honestly, like, it's pretty extra cautious. But I know in today's world, we get accused of being a conspiracy and
Normally I wear
corrupt all
normally I
the
wear
time.
suspenders on my belt.
Hey,
Here's what I want to ask Mr. Rutan, is in years past, and I'm sorry I don't remember the details of every single one of these plans you bring us, but in the past, if we wanted to add something to the STIP, or maybe it was the annual construction program, it has to be through unanimous vote. I just want to make sure we're not getting ourselves in a problem right there.
The STIP can be amended with a unanimous, just
A regular vote.
Regular vote.
Okay.
The annual construction requires
7-0.
7-0.
Okay,
To amend.
just wanted to be careful.
Okay, now we're voting on the resolution in its entirety minus this.
Correct.
Okay.
Plus
Any-
the 10,000.
gotcha.
No, we already did that.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's do it quick.
Okay, any more discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I move to, I guess, reinsert or have a separate vote on R4.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
No. I mean, no, I don't think we should do it.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, that passes 6-1 with Councilmember Brenner
5 to 1 with an abstention.
and 1 abstention, yes.
This is going to get better, I know.
Wow.
That was tough. Rusty, sorry.
Well, this 6-year road plan's a week.
Yeah. Okay, let's move into the open session. During open session, audience members will have up to 3 minutes to address the council on any issue relevant to county business. Before beginning to comment, please state your name and topic of interest for the record. And if your name is complicated, please spell it. And please speak directly into the microphone so everyone can hear you. Come on down.
Wendy Harris. First of all, I wanted to thank Councilmember Brown for recusing himself. It was the right thing to do. I think that a lot of times we're not sensitive enough to conflict of interest issues, so thank you. What I'm here to talk about is the emails that I sent you regarding my problems with wood smoke, and I wanted to thank the executive and Councilmember Weimer for forwarding those on to push a response. I did hear from the Clean Air Agency, and the fire that's been going on for 2 days is not legal, but they can't find it. But that really doesn't address my problem, because all they'll really do is require a permit. And my lungs don't really care whether a fire that's burning is permitted or not. The impacts to my health are the same. So the real problem here is that we have provisions for public nuisances that should protect me from outdoor burning that has an impact on my health. And I can quantify the impact on my health from the amount of oxygen that I'm taking from my tank. And I'm really frustrated by this, that the fire department won't enforce those provisions, and neither will the Clean Air Agency. When I talked to them again, they're just avoided the issue and just said, well, we'll take care of it by getting it permitted. So it's really going to take some action by the county to direct the fire department to enforce that provision of the law. And I don't know if, I'm assuming you have authority over the fire marshal. I'm being told that policies have to come from the fire marshal, and no one ever seems to be in that, there when I try to contact them. But I am really concerned. I moved into an area that I thought was rural residential. And if I'm living someplace that's zoned residential, I don't think I should be exposed to agricultural burns, even if they're permitted. We really have to recognize that agriculture, as we practice it, is a heavy impact industrial use, and it needs to be kept separated from residential uses and schools and things like that. So I don't know what the solution is, but right now, me having to actually see the fire,
30 seconds,
identify
please.
it, and call somebody isn't working. And one of the other problems I have is the Clean Air Agency, they went out to look for the fire, but they're only there Monday through Friday during office hours, and that's not typically when a lot of the problem fires are happening. They happen at night, they happen at dawn, and they're not there then. So we really need to come up with some solution that's going to address this, because it's a very serious health impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Can I ask a question? What kind of burning are you talking about? Like, is it people burning garbage late at night? I've never heard of that.
From what I can tell, because I can see it from my house, it looks like an agricultural burn. It looks like there's a field that's kind of hidden, and the amount of smoke and the way it's coming up, I'd suspect it's agricultural.
So it's the same fire that you've been mentioning to us for the last few months?
No, it's the problem I'm having with smoke is constant, and it's not just agricultural, it's also wood stoves that people have in a mobile home. I mean, it's all around me all the time, summer and night. So right now I'm experiencing really severe problems because this agricultural burn is so big and it's so close to me.
So there's a burn ban, I think,
No, it was lifted.
I thought I got a message today saying it was back, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, even if it is, this is illegal. The burn ban was in effect in the cities, but it was lifted in full in the unincorporated county, and that's where I live. So that's what's going on. But the real problem is we have a provision that nobody's willing to enforce, and I'm standing here, and I'm exactly the type of person this was meant to protect. So. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I actually suspect if it's in that sort of volume, it's a slash pile burn from logging operation, would be my guess.
I don't think there's logging. there.
Clearing operation.
Yeah.
Might not be logging. Slash pile.
Good evening. It's nice to talk again. Again, my name is David Stritch. It's S-T-R-I-C-H. And up here because I had sent some materials to all of you about the speed limit over on Marine Drive, involving also petition from neighbors and bicyclists and pedestrians, and a color-coded map that shows the speed limit discrepancies in the area. And just wanted to share with you all that there's 50 residences or more and 25 driveways in a small strip of area on Marine Drive, west of, Bancroft, of the Fort Bellingham store. And just wanted to share with you that it's a really tight area, and it's right now 40 miles an hour. And asking that you consider to lower that speed limit. A lot of residents and pedestrians also agreed with that. And it's just a really tight road, and people are driving fast. I almost got hit going out of my driveway. It's only a half-mile stretch of road, but I think you can make a very big impact by making a small difference in lowering that speed limit. Trying to think of what else. Yeah, that's it for now.
We discussed, I remember your letter, and
Yeah.
we discussed it in the Public Works Committee, and it's my understanding that they are gonna be doing some research, figuring out what's going on and all that. I think it's a horrible area, for the speed is terrible, and it goes so fast and then slows down, and especially because it's close to the bridge. Yeah, so I think our Public Works Director just went like that. So.
Right on, great. Yeah, and the data from Rodney also shows that majority of folks are speeding. So any power that you all can take to make it safer for our neighborhood, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Glasser, and I have a few things to say. I'm not stopping. I'm going to continue to request that you send invoices to the Northwest Fairgrounds Association and the Trump campaign requesting reimbursement for the security costs for the Trump rally this past May. Everyone involved in the preparation of the event knew this would cost a lot of money. Who did the Fairgrounds Association and the Trump campaign think would be paying for all this security? This is not right, and if the Trump campaign didn't sign a contract to pay for the security, it's on the fairgrounds. They knew this was going to cost a lot of money. What is this issue? What's the issue with sending out a bill? What are you all, seriously, what's everyone afraid of with sending an invoice to the fairgrounds and to the Trump campaign? The worst that'll happen is they won't respond, we won't get the money, and you put it off as something that we didn't get back. But to not try, there's been over $300,000 spent just on that one rally. That wasn't asked for by anybody in this room probably, and wasn't asked for by most people in this community, and it was just run with as soon as it was discussed. Sure, let's do it in Linden. There's no need for a permit. We might as well try. I think it's your responsibility to make sure that Mr. Lowe's goes after that money some way, some fashion. First thing. Second is I want to bring up my desire to have the council stop focusing on fossil fuels in the area on the water and start working towards producing renewable energy for our community, such as hemp. It's time to talk to farmers about alternatives to cows, which produce huge amounts of methane gas, which we know are horrible for our environment. It's time to study how we can use our vast farmland to grow hemp that is great for the land, the air, the environment, and could be used for building materials, clothes, energy, medicine, and food. We are primed in this area to have an amazing industry of hemp. The last thing I'm going to say, and I'm not sure if you'll cut me off, is I'd like to request that the council stop dicking around with this whole idea of keeping the GPT EIS going. Enough. I want to talk to you guys about what's going on in our community, and this issue and keeping it going another day prevents us in the community from talking to you. And I know that there was a vote, and I know you're considering it, and I know everybody's putting pressure on you to keep this kind of thing going. And honestly, they've had since May or March. When was the Army Corps of Engineers denying permits? I think that was in April. Okay, 6 months. That's enough.
30 seconds,
You would
please.
never do that for anybody in the community to wrap up anything. You would never do that for little companies. Why you're willing to say okay to big companies is beyond me. You represent us. We don't want that anymore. We want to talk to you about Cherry Point. We want to talk to you about what's going on in our community. We want to talk to you about how to save the planet. You're not allowed to do that until this thing is over. I beg of you, please, 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 vote no and stop this nonsense and just do it already.
Time.
Thank you.
Can I just tell her?
Yes.
It'll
Ms.
just take a
Brennan?
second. You can't talk anymore, but I want to tell you, our executive did have the prosecuting attorney's office look into that, and we got a letter from them, and we're not allowed to, he's not allowed to legally do it, so I offered to write the letter myself, and hopefully, and council will, and this is just to the Trump people. I'm not going to do it for the fairgrounds because I'm not convinced that they absolutely knew anything. I think, well, you know, don't be so dramatic. I'm serious. I'm serious. I did.
And I'm serious when.
Fine.
Okay,
We will agree to disagree.
Chair.
Enough. I know.
Yeah,
I was
let's-
just trying to
let's-
give you
let's-
information.
We don't argue with the public.
Okay.
Good evening, Council. My name's Carly Deathridge, Bellingham resident and staff member with Resources for Sustainable Communities. I'm here to speak to item number 3 under other items in your packet this evening. This is regarding the 6-month contract extension between Whatcom County and CH2M Hill to accomplish ramp down activities to complete the EIS for the Gateway Pacific Terminal project in order to comply with NEPA and SEPA. First, I understand the complex nature of this unusual EIS since it requires both a NEPA and SEPA review to study area-wide impacts of shipping coal from the Powder River Basin via rail to Cherry Point and overseas via tanker ships. This requires a lot of time. However, I do not understand why another extension is necessary when the public was told the EIS would be complete in early 2016, and the contract has subsequently been extended multiple times. The studies from this project will be helpful for decision makers at all levels, so don't halt the process. Yet, the county needs to move on from this project and certainly focus on other issues. Please consider amending the contract to stipulate that ramp down activities must be complete without extension, either within a shorter time period or at a minimum within the proposed 6 months. Additionally, I want to thank the council for your leadership in introducing the proposed language for an extension to the unrefined fossil fuel development moratorium at Cherry Point. I hope you all will vote to approve this moratorium at the council meeting on September 27th. Thanks.
Dina Jensen, Birch Bay. First, I would say I wanted to support both Amy Glasser and Wendy Harris on the issues that they expressed concern over tonight. And then I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is held on land that is the traditional territory of the Lummi and Nooksack peoples. May we nurture our relationship with our Coast Salish neighbors and the shared responsibility to their homelands where we all reside today. Last night, after a huge turnout for a rally supporting the protectors of sacred lands and waters in Standing Rock, North Dakota, the Bellingham City Council passed a resolution expressing concern regarding alleged violations of due process and lack of meaningful tribal consultation regarding permits for the Dakota Access Pipeline. Back on August 30th, representatives of 8 Washington tribes traveled to Standing Rock, North Dakota. On one of the occasions, when Lummi Indian Business Council Chairman Tim Ballou spoke in Standing Rock, he said, "Our council stopped a project that would have desecrated a sacred site, much like this site is sacred to your people. And we did it with the Coast Salish delegation that we traveled with today. They stood with us. Indian nations all across the country stood with us. And in kind, we're here to stand with you to make sure that tribal sovereignty and treaty rights are honored and protected." When Chairman Ballou talks about stopping a project that would have desecrated a sacred site, I remind you that there are so many of us working to support that stoppage right now. We are doing work here in Whatcom County, and we are standing with individuals of Lummi Nation and Nooksack Nation and other affected tribes to make sure that we don't have to get to the point where we must stand up to bulldozers with our bodies. I believe that approving a ramp down of the GPT EIS that, according to the ramp down plan, allows for work to be closed out in an orderly fashion so it can be, quote, efficiently resumed at a future date. In other words, taking any action allowing the GPT project any opportunity whatsoever to proceed ignores the ruling by the Army Corps of Engineers that the construction of the GPT facility would violate Lummi Nation's usual and accustomed treaty fishing rights and would ignore our county government's
30 seconds,
responsibility
please.
to uphold those rights. Thank you.
Mike Sennett, Bellingham. Thank you for taking my comments and properly handling the business of the county despite what I heard was said this morning. Here we are in September and summer is winding down, but there's still time to turn a picnic into an ordeal. Council has been entered in the Gateway Pacific Terminal EIS hot potato toss, courtesy of another branch of county government that has been keeping that shriveled spud on the smoldering coals of SSA's burnt schemes. Looks to me like that office has decided to ignore the reality of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Natural Resources decision, and is cooperating with the discredited terminal company, keeping their subservient communications from public view, promising unwarranted extensions for a suspended EIS process that serves no purpose for the county. The time wasted on a dead coal dump is time taken from working on the county's real problems, like maybe getting reimbursed for the Trump rally. This dalliance between a county office and the GPT plotters is an insult to the Lummi Nation, who valiantly fought this misbegotten coal terminal and by the strength of their treaty saved the county from environmental catastrophe. These furtive negotiations over the failed project do a disservice to the citizens of the county who supported the democratic institution, who turned back the corrupt efforts of the coal industry to subvert the democratic institutions of the county. The secretive note passing stands in stark contrast with the actions of the council. You have conducted business as it should be done, with transparency and by giving the public ample opportunity to weigh in. As demonstrated by the emergency fossil fuel export moratorium, the council strives to protect the public safety instead of the interest of the rogue corporations that threaten us. I urge you to put an end to this GPT EIS charade and refuse to extend the contract as requested by SSA PIT. They should have started the so-called ramp down process when the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers decision was handed down on May 9th. Instead, SSA PIT decided to thumb their nose at the Lummi, their treaty rights, the Constitution, and the law of the land. I believe this pattern of corporate behavior borders on criminality, and it wouldn't be the first time, as we all know. And I believe that any cooperation between county agencies and SSA PIT now amounts to aiding and abetting. All your oaths of office require you to support the Constitution and the laws of the state of Washington. It seems to me this
30
directive
seconds, please.
was ignored by the county executive, and I trust you will not follow that egregiously bad example. Thank you.
Paula Rotundi, Blaine. Please do not approve signing the two contracts pertaining to the development of the GPT EIS. These contracts provide absolutely no benefit to Whatcom County. The original June 12, 2012 contracts say in section 31.1, quote, all writings, programs, data, public records, or other materials prepared by the consultant shall be the sole, or other records shall be the sole and absolute property of the county, end quote. Every word written and every data point collected already belongs to Whatcom County and should be available to the public immediately. Signing these contract amendments withholds the compiled information from the public for another 180 days. The 4 years of compiled information is of immediate importance to the County Council and the citizens as we consider the emergency moratorium and the comp plan. We need access to the information now. Whatcom County citizens are capable of reading and understanding the compiled information in its present form. We own it. We understand the compiled information as it is, and we want it released as it is. We do not need to wait 6 months for it to be tidied up. There's no negative for Whatcom County in not approving these contracts. Whatcom County incurs no liability by not approving the contracts. The contracts themselves state in section 11.3, quote, "The county may terminate the agreement in whole or in part whenever the county determines in its sole discretion that such termination is in the interests of the county. Termination of this agreement by the county at any time during the
30
term,
seconds, please.
whether for default or convenience, shall not constitute breach of contract by the county," end quote. The contracts have been a major inconvenience and contentious burden for the county and its citizens and have obstructed our right to communicate freely with you about issues on Cherry Point. PDF staff time and resources can be much better spent addressing the many other pressing issues facing Whatcom County.
Time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Charles Law, Whatcom County, Bellingham. A lot of people said a lot of things that I agree with, including what Wendy said about burning. It's not necessarily just a person that's carrying an oxygen tank on the back that can be seriously impaired by any type of burning smoke. Cigarettes or trash or agricultural. But I'm here to talk more about the EIS extension, and I would like for the council to vote 7-0 no on any extension. You know, we spending a lot of money here over and over and over again, and it's being wasted on an ideology that is dead. A lot of people want to keep this thing going. It's not going to work. Look at the markets. The only market for coal is in Asia. And now they're realizing the environmental impacts of burning coal. I believe a minister of, I would say, Public Works in Saudi Arabia said that the Stone Age didn't end for the lack of stones. The coal industry is not going to end for lack of coal, but it's going to end. And I would want to be on the right side of that equation, because looking at 3 council members that are on the finance board and looking at a county exec, I'm thinking, if this keeps continuing on and this money is being wasted, come election time, I think I'm be looking for somebody that can save the citizens of Whatcom County money by not hindering and relying and constantly bickering over a dead industry. Sooner or later, I believe people are going to look
30 seconds,
the same
please.
way I'm looking. And I'm thinking maybe there could be a time for a change come election time. And I know I have maybe 20 seconds left, but I'd like to say this. a lot of you have run as progressives, but if you lose that progressive base and you think you can run toward conservatism, they might think your record is rather wishy-washy, and they might not support you. Thank you.
Hi, John Strong. I'm a small business owner and private citizen here. I didn't come to talk tonight, so I don't have any script to read to you, but I thought I'd share just a little bit of trivia. You know, everyone is so concerned about oil and oil pipelines. 47 years ago, with the technology that existed 47 years ago, in Alaska, we built an 850-mile pipeline of pipe that's 48 inches in diameter over the worst terrain, weather, the worst place possibly in the world. At that time, it was the largest engineering and construction project in the history of mankind. In the last 47 years, that pipeline has pumped 85 billion barrels of oil. Okay? Anybody hear of any big problems with the pipeline? No. At the same time, besides fueling the economy in Alaska, it provided every single private citizen in Alaska between $875 and $2,000 every single year for every member of their family. I just think if you're so concerned about fossil fuel and pollution and those things, right now you could outlaw wood stoves. If you don't think those things are worse than a diesel locomotive, go outside and try to breathe any cold night. You could also stop tractor-trailer trucks from coming into the county. They're the worst polluter there is around here. The I-5 corridor could kill you. So I grew up in Alaska. Most of my life was out of doors, hunting, fishing, camping after flying into some remote spot. I am an environmentalist. Some salmon are my best friends. But as a businessman, I also know that there's a balance between environment and economic impact, okay? There's a balance. We proved that could happen, okay? There was a study done on the North Slope of Alaska by an independent firm that was hired by the state of Alaska, and the results of that study said that there was not one single negative impact to anything that walked, swam, or flew anywhere on the North Slope. So it can be done. It can be done. I just hope moving forward that you all will exercise just common sense for
30 seconds, please.
And be reasonable. There is a balance. It doesn't have to be like this. And personally, I don't want to go back to killing a moose with a sharp stick and then rubbing two sticks together to try to cook it. Thank you.
Hi, Christopher Bruce Diley. Normally I don't speak on other things, but I just heard something that I want to respond to, or just add to, is I grew up in Alaska as well, and I fished went on a flying fishing trip to Montague Island to Beach River when I was a teenager, and I watched the sea otters, right there at the mouth of the river as we were fishing for salmon, like the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. They were playing with us and interacting with us, and it was incredible. Later on, of course, it was the Exxon Valdez oil spill that occurred, and Montague Island was affected by that oil spill and the wildlife of Montague Island. So it really broke my heart as a teenager, when all that stuff came down. So, it really is. It's not an easy issue. There is both sides of it. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's just heartbreaking when wildlife suffers from oil spills. My issue is on, once again, I just want to reiterate is that the Washington State governor, whoever, if it's going to be Jay Inslee again, or if it's, I think it is presently, but if it's going to be Inslee, it's going to be the governor, whoever the governor is, they need to remind the federal government that the reintroduction of the grizzlies into the Cascades is a state issue, that it's not federal. And I brought this up the last time I spoke, and pointing out that it was Dirk Kempthorne who made that point in keeping the grizzlies out of Idaho back in 2001 when he wrote his article on USA Today. And nobody's doing that here in Washington. that the federal government is preparing to railroad the issue and put the grizzlies in next year. And no Washington state governor is speaking out and saying, wait a minute, you promised that this is a state issue, let the people decide. So the people of Washington need to decide. And I held up a sign here in downtown Bellingham, and usually when I take an opinion, it's very unpopular. I get a lot of bad feedback. This time I had like 80 to 90% people supporting what I said. They said, we don't want the grizzlies. We don't need the grizzlies. And my sign was pointing out is that the grizzlies are thriving. There's no reason to reintroduce the grizzlies into the Cascades. And my other point is that it's been a success. The grizzly recovery has been a success. There's no reason to put them into the Cascades. If they didn't put them into Idaho, which is hardly highly populated, but you're going to put them into the Cascades, which is densely populated, they're going to come down after the salmon into the salmons in the streams like they do up in Anchorage, Alaska. They come down from the Chugach Mountains into the foothills, right there just butting up against the
30 seconds,
the
please.
subdivisions. Yeah, so my point is that's my main point, is it needs to be, it's a state issue. And I'm the only one pointing this out. I'm just a homeless person. And the Bellingham Herald, once again, did not publish my submission on this issue. I handed it out here tonight. They didn't publish it. I've been here 8 years. They've never published anything I've submitted, no letters or anything. So I'm really disappointed that they're shutting me out for whatever reason. But I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Hi, Sandy Robson, Birch Bay. First, I want to go on record and say, obviously, you all know I've been writing numerous letters on this issue regarding the proposed EIS contract amendment 5.1 to the contract for the preparation of the EIS. And I really like all of you. I obviously voted for all of you when I say that. I'm disappointed that in any one of my letters, I didn't ever hear a response back. I know you get a lot of letters. I know you got a lot of letters from me. So that's a lot. I can't tell you how frustrating that felt. And so first, I wanted to say that and say how important just an acknowledgement, even when I say, could I please get a response, I didn't. And it isn't to make you feel bad, it's to make you feel how it feels from my point of view. And beyond that, I want to go on record. Most of all, what I was writing about, I felt was really important, is that our county administration, Jack Lyles and his administration, have refused to put correspondence and documents related to the GPT project on the GPT page of the county website. They had 2 documents only on there for the entirety of 2016 until myself and a few handful of people started writing them on, I believe it was July 29th, and asked them to, where are those documents? And it's not about the reports in the EIS, it's basic correspondence, like what's been happening with the suspensions that have been granted. All of these 3, at least now, suspensions since April 1st, when the 45-day suspension was invoked per its clause by PIT in the contract. Now there's been months of additional suspensions. I believe not only does the public deserve to know what was in those correspondence emails, the only emails that then were subsequently posted on there were coming from, there were 3. A July 22nd letter from, a July 20th letter from CH2M Hill, and then a May 10th letter from PIT, and an April 1st letter first invoking the suspension from PIT. No letters from the county at all. Any response is posted on
30
there.
seconds, please.
And you all are asked to be making this decision with no information other, to my knowledge, to base that on, other than what the administration is telling you, their version of what's happening. None of us really know, because we have not been made privy to those correspondence, at least. And I've asked numerous times, and they still haven't been put on, and there's no good reason they're not on. And a couple of those documents were sent to me, not even in a public disclosure, just sent to me after I asked multiple times. And those were sent by Mr. Schroeder, and he still refused to even put those on the public website. Thank you. Please do not vote for this EIS contract, please.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. My name is Victoria Savage, and I am a resident of Bellingham. And I, of course, am asking you to vote no on the EIS extension and the ramp down. Despite the fact that there is compelling evidence of global climate change, excluding the fact that it abrogates an existing treaty, eliminating the fact that it endangers Cherry Point reserves and environs, precluding evidence that support an increase in health issues in relation to respiratory ailments and in relation to compromised response times for EMS and our medics. All of that, as a business person in Deming, our business offsets 80% of its energy right now via solar panels and solar energy. That east of Deming in a rainforest. So as a business person, I can tell you clean energy pays off. As a business person, I can also say that China's reliance on coal has decreased 2.5 and 3.7% respectively between 2014 and 15. They currently lead the planet in clean energy projects and are on track to dramatically reduce their coal reliance by 2030. They certainly have a large surplus of coal. So who are we selling this to? I ask you respectfully to vote no on EIS and the ramp down. It's obsolete technology and obsolete ideology. Thank you very much for your time.
Gwen Hunter, Squalcombe Valley, Bellingham, Washington. And I agree with what she said and what most people said, that we need to just stop the EIS process. It goes against the treaties, it goes against our health issues, and it's just not wise for our planet as a whole. We do not need more fossil fuels, and we don't need them. We don't need them. In 1941, Henry Ford built a car out of plastic that was made from agricultural waste, and it was stronger than steel and lighter than steel. And he said that you could fuel farm equipment for 100 years on an acre of potatoes. We now know that we don't have to use food waste. We can use sawdust. There's all kinds of waste we can use to make fuel with. We don't need Bakken crude. We don't need coal. When I was a kid, teenager, I raced cars, and I was able to race a car that was a AA open fuel, super modified, alcohol-fueled car, and I won. And all the other cars were regular gas and oil. And it's a clean-burning car that went really, really fast. It made so much noise, everybody else pulled over, let me go by, and I lapped them twice. But this was back in the 1900s, that this that this technology existed. And it's been, and World War II came along in 1941, and that's what kind of threw the ag waste fuel movement off track, and oil came over, and we've been kind of fighting for oil, wars for oil ever since. It's kind of crazy. And I look at this money, at the EIS, the only thing I can figure, another 3-month extension would mean after the elections. Maybe there's some hope for, somebody thinking that the elections will go a certain way, and then, they will be able to railroad, the Cherry Point, the old industries through. We have to stop them. We don't need them. And Bellingham has enough agricultural waste and engineers. We've got a wonderful tech school here. There's no reason why we couldn't develop, a fairly closed fuel system, energy sufficient community here. And there's a guy, Michael Bloom. I just started reading his stuff. His presentation to Wall Street. He has made machines that he's actually selling that will do the converting of ag waste to alcohol.
30
fuel.
seconds, please.
So, anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Ellen Howard, and I live in Bellingham. And while we think that fossil fuels are a thing that we need to get past, I think a lot of the corporations don't think so. I think there are economic things that will be happening after they declare bankruptcy, and then they apparently are leveraging right now, buying land from the Forest Service so they can they can mine coal where there are forests on the East Coast. So while we might think this is an issue that will just end by itself because it's an old way of getting power, I think that the corporations have another vision than some of us may. Thank you.
Max Perry, Whatcom County. I don't have any talking points, but I wish the folks that did would get their facts straight, that the $51,000 or $1,085 is an escrow from Gateway Pacific, and that if you don't use it now, then Gateway Pacific keeps it. So thank you. I think it would be good to spend that $51,000. Thanks.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak during the open session?
Carol Perry, Whatcom County. And please notice that I don't have talking points either. There's no subject that people agree on more, whether it be the council, I think the executive, every meeting that you go to, there's a need for people to understand the issue of water. This morning at the PUD meeting, the manager, the commissioners, and their council all voiced this in different ways. There was representatives of the farm community. They were, maybe they understand it a little bit more, but they have frustration. And at your surface water meeting here, was it last month? Or maybe you didn't have one last month, the month before. You were asked to give money that had been funneled or saved there in last year's budget for outreach. Everybody agreed. It's something we really need. And last week at the management team, there was total frustration about this issue of water. In fact, the representative from the Lummies agreed with me. Can you believe that? And there was others around the table. Total frustration because the decisions about water are coming down from EPA, down from Puget Sound Partnership. It's a grant game for money. The needs of Whatcom County are not being considered. And I just wanted to speak tonight about your number 3 on the consent agenda. There's $20,000 that should be given, that was requested for the implementation, status update, and web modifications. And it's being asked by Geneva Consulting. And today in committee, several times you brought up, shouldn't these things be put out to bid? Now maybe, I don't know all the background of this, I'm just a citizen. Has
30
this been
seconds,
put out to
please.
bid? Because I have watched Geneva Consulting for 3 or 4 or 5 years. And I feel that Geneva Consulting is someone who knows everything about the Puget Sound Partnership and is so busy with that, funneling that information back and forth. I want to make sure that this $20,000 is really for outreach. Now, they just came
Time.
out. Well, look at the Water Weeks stuff this week. It's all films. I don't think it's going to help us know what to do about the water situation and what's going on. It is confusing. Thank you. Sorry I went over.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Seeing no one, we will close the public session and move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, the Whatcom County Finance and Administrative Services Committee met today. We considered items 1 through 8 on the consent agenda. These all received a majority vote for recommendation for the full council, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion to approve items 1 through 8 on the consent agenda. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item was an ordinance amending the 2016 Whatcom County budget, 14th request in the amount of $295,000. This received a vote of 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion on an ordinance. Discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I just realised I'm out of sequence. Natural resources was first, but do you want me to continue? Or?
We have a withdrawn item only.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then I'm right. Mr. Chair, the next item was to request approval for the county executive to amend the contract between Whatcom County CH2M Hell Engineers to accomplish the ramp down work plan for contract completion associated with the development of an environmental impact statement to comply with NEPA and SEPA regarding the proposed Gateway Pacific Terminal and BNSF Custis Spur modification project to ensure the works and contracts are closed out in an orderly fashion. This contract was in the amount of $51,085. This was discussed in committee and received a recommendation of 3-0 to the full council, and I so move.
Okay, we have that motion in front of us. Discussion? Ms. Brenner?
Just one question. My understanding is there is no prohibition now on us talking to anyone or anyone talking to us about GPT.
I brought that up at the end of our last meeting. We tabled it.
We removed it from our.
We tabled it.
Oh, we tabled it?
We're going to talk about it tonight.
Oh, okay. We might as well just.
Mr. Donovan?
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of people interested in this issue. And I was disposed to oppose this contract prior to our discussion in our hearing this morning. And I don't think there's a lot of confusion about what the contract, I'm still a bit confused about some stuff. I've got more clarity, but I think a lot of us have a view that if we could vote this thing down, we're somehow ending the GPT thing, and some of us would think that'd be a great thing. But we're kind of operating here that I think there's feelings like we want to be able to do something, and this is a thing we could grab onto and try to use this to do it, but my sense is that that isn't going to work. This is being referred to as an extension, or we're continuing to be dicking around with this thing or whatever. But we're faced with, do we just suspend the contract and leave it in limbo or figure out a way to get it closed down? And the message I'm getting from the executive and the deputy executive is this is a way to close it down. And in our conversation this afternoon, was it morning? Morning. It's been a long 2 days for me. That the executive is committed to, actually I should back up here. What we really need to deal with is how permits are vested here, and the fact that they can potentially be vested, it seems like forever, and that gets to us changing our code or changing our policies, and whatever we do with this contract isn't going to change that. So I hope that people are interested in this issue, take a serious look at our vesting stuff and how we can deal with the vesting stuff. But the communication we had this morning was that the executive is going to communicate with the applicant, I think referring to our major development permit code, which says that projects that are out of compliance with state and federal regulations end or can't go forward, and that there's potentially then a way to get closure or an end on this. That's on record. We can go over how that conversation went, but that's important to me. That's a separate avenue that we can take to get this thing to end. And so whether we approve this or don't approve it, it's not going to kill it. It's not an extension. It's not our money. I think that's another important point. The one thing that I think people, I share this frustration with, is that the actual contract, which on 130 of our packet says, the general purpose of this agreement is to provide preparation for an environmental impact statement. It doesn't say close it down. That's already been signed. I don't think it's our business to actually renegotiate these contracts, but the out there then is as in Exhibit A, and Exhibit A has fairly limited scope about what's going to be done. The irony, if you look at this exhibit about what they're going to be doing, they've been working on this since 2012. There's 11 reports done and 13 reports to do, and what we're going to get out of this is, it looks like a list of things identifying stuff that they didn't do.
Well, it's also going to give us the other.
And actually, yeah, and this, people might bring this to, but that by approving this contract, ironically, then we have a better grip on being able to have access to this information that the contract says we own. So yeah, I'm not sure I'm clarifying things there, but there's a lot of misinformation about it. If we just vote to kill this thing, that's it, and the project's dead, and unfortunately, that's not something we can do with this vote. I don't see that as something that this vote can do.
Mr. Sadoo.
I was also looking at the schedule or Exhibit A. There are almost 250 hours which are allocated to prepare the index of the report status, include the graphics in there, summary of outstanding issues, and prepare the final invoice. Now that is 80% of the work which will be done with this $51,000, and that $51,000 is a money in escrow from GPT. It's not county money or public money. The rest of the hours are 60 to 70 hours. I didn't quite total it. So 250 hours are for the project manager or lead people on each of these reports, and the administration people who will put the binders together, makes 15 copies or whatever they need to do to close it down. There are only 60, 70 hours being spent to do any actual work on these reports. And if you are involved in any large projects, when there are so many threads to that project, to a closure, you do need to make the binder and put a final report on it, and some kind of a final report which will be public and will be useful to the county as much as to the public and as much as to GPT or anybody who is interested in. So I do not see that this is doing any continuation of EIS in any way or fashion with the schedule which has been included, and it will clarify the items. And we did have a discussion that the executive said that he will not release the money until they meet all these conditions and give us some report that these are the binders and these are the things you're going to get before this money is released. Thank you.
Mr. Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to sort of reinforce what has been said about this, excuse me, so far. The money being spent on this contract is not Whatcom County's money. That we heard some colorful and somewhat passionate and even inflammatory language around this issue today. And this money is not being spent by Whatcom County. The staff time is not being spent by PDS. This is something being paid for by the project applicant to wrap up the project, which is a logical and reasonable step to take on a project of this magnitude. Secondly, the folks that are wanting us to not vote for it, it appears there's some sort of belief that if we don't approve this, we're actually taking a proactive step to terminating this project permit process that they don't like. I haven't seen any information, and nothing in my understanding about our permit process tells me that that's actually the case. I don't think voting for it or against it has any bearing on whether or not the permit or the project continues. There is one issue that was brought up today by Ms. Robson just now, which is about transparency, which is something that's very, very important, and especially on this issue. And I was hoping we could ask Tyler or Mr. Laus to just respond to what to me was a pretty serious accusation that there's somehow hidden documents that you have that you're keeping from the public, and that somehow not approving this, or this permit extension somehow keeps those hidden. I really didn't understand that, and I'm hoping you can elaborate or clear it up for us.
I can sure try. Tyler Schroeder, County Deputy Executive. So there has been a number of public disclosure requests in the last couple of weeks. Council may be aware of those or may not. Some of them are from residents within Whatcom County looking for past emails and past documents that were developed as we negotiated and worked through this contract work. Others are for coal dust analysis throughout the state of Washington, because there are a number of documents within this work that a lot of people are interested in seeing, not only from the emails in the administration, but also the technical work that's being done. So we're going to be responding to those public disclosure requests. I have probably weekly, if not daily, calls with Department of Ecology, with the Attorney General's office, as well as with the Army Corps in regards to what information is available and what not. And so I guess I ask for a little bit of patience to be able to respond as the law indicates within the public disclosure requests to get that information out there.
So, and I'm, to be clear, I'm not accusing you of anything. I have a ton of faith in you and the administration and our integrity. Are there documents that you are not putting up on our GPT website for whatever reason? Are there emails between you and folks that you're not putting up on the GPT website?
The emails that are put up on the website have been the same emails and the same pattern of emails that are on the website since 2012 when this was being developed. There has been internal dialogue, internal deliberative documents or attorney-client privilege documents that we're working as we work to develop an environmental impact statement, which is the administration's task to do, that haven't been publicly available. What has been publicly available are the invoices, the status updates, the indication of the scoping report, the 24,000 individual comments that have been submitted, the 130 some odd thousand comments that have been submitted. All of the record that is in the EIS website that was developed specifically for this, all of the information on the county's website, and all of the information on the Department of Ecology's website. And so it's correct to say that there is information that's not publicly available today.
And so it sounds like those internal emails are what some folks are digging for, internal correspondence that folks are digging for. Would approval or disapproval of this EIS contract in any way alter your approach to those internal correspondence documents?
We have been working with the prosecuting attorney's office as well as our public records officer to respond to those public disclosure requests within the timeframes that we have. Now, those are reasonable timeframes. We respond within 5 days and then indicate how long it's going to take to be able to provide the information that they're looking at. And so I currently have about 30, well, I have 3 different public disclosure requests and about 30 specific emails within those that I'll likely be responding by the end of the week, because that was the indication that we gave to those public disclosures.
Okay.
Mr. Weimer, then Mr. Brown.
Don't sit down, Tyler. There was a lot of discussion this morning about making publicly available the studies, the 11 ones that are already done and the 13 that are pending somewhere. And it was stated that somehow, by signing this wind down contract, it would make that easier.
Yeah, so the contract scope is to summarize the technical reports, to index the status of the reports, and electronically archive the report. And Councilmember Sadhu actually brings up a very good point, is a lot of that time and effort is with the project manager. And the time and effort will be spent understanding where all of those reports are, which reports the county has in their possessions, because currently we do not have all of those reports, which will make the future public disclosures, which I expect there will be many, more efficiently and more able to be put online and publicly provided at the end of this contract scope.
But When we had this discussion, you know, we all focused on this section 31.1 that talks about the ownership. And it says that all writings, programs, data, public records, and other materials are the absolute property of the county. So you're saying that what is our absolute property we can't get our hands on unless we do this?
I'm just saying that currently today we do not have that information. I do believe the contract clearly states it's the county's ownership. We've been working with CH2M Hill and we've been working through negotiating this contract. I can say that the $51,000 to do this work will benefit the county to get that information more efficiently.
Do we have any of the reports?
Yes.
Okay, one thing, and I'd just like to propose an amendment to the contract. I'd actually like to propose 3 amendments, but we'll try one first, and it's to remove section 10.2 extension. The duration of this agreement may be extended by mutual written consent of the parties for a period of up to 1 year at a time for a total of no longer than 3 years. So while we've all focused on this being 6 months and even questioned whether 6 months is too long, I'm thinking once the council buys off on this, we could be looking at 3 additional years.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 141.
Is that the
So
original?
I would remove section 10.2.
That's okay.
I'll second that, even though I think procedurally I think we have to vote this contract down since it's already been signed and then give our,
Provide direction.
give our proposed changes back to it, but I understand your point, and I second it. And I have a feeling this is just a leftover from the first contract, and there's no need for it to be in there. And I imagine, I'm going to guess, hopefully, that they won't care if it wanted to be taken out, but we'll see. So I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I guess I would ask, what's the proper path forward here?
Vote on the motion.
Yeah. If procedurally, we're supposed to just vote the whole thing down and then give the administration kind of talking points of what we want in another one, we could go that too, but that seems a little more drastic.
Tyler?
My recommendation is to walk through the changes that council's requesting and then move approval of the contract. I will then take that contract and discuss with the applicants and those that have signed it, the reasons why, and get signatures to it as appropriate.
Mr. Executive, did you have something?
I agree with that. It'd be more expedient for you to make motions. I agree that if the council is inclined to prove it with changes, for you to move the main motion, then move to amend it as per your wishes, and then vote on the document as amended, and then we would be able to bring that back to, we need to do the same on, to mirror items 2 and 3 in the agenda to be able to mirror those out so that it works, and then we bring it back to them and say, our council, this is what they agree to. If you're able to articulate your changes appropriately tonight so that they're understandable, that would give us the ability to act on it. Thank you.
Okay, then we're sitting at the right place. We have a motion, we do have a main motion to approve the entire contract, and we also have now a motion to amend, removing the paragraph 10.2, correct?
And I seconded it.
And it's been seconded. Any discussion, Mr. Brown?
So I just want to point out that this contract is not with GPT. This contract is with CH2M Hill to do engineering work for GPT. So it's not, this is it's not a 3-year extension on the GPT application. So I want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
Ms. Brenner?
Well, also, I do think that there is some language that's kind of legalese. I want to wait till Karen and Tyler. It's my understanding some of this language that seems so clear, which isn't, is kind of legalese. And so I don't think there'd be a problem taking that out. And what reminded me is that somebody brought up this thing about terminating for convenience, when that really has nothing to do with this kind of contract, and it was very confusing to people, myself included, that it was even in there. And we can terminate for convenience, but we can get sued too, so I don't believe that this has anything to do with that, and there's these little things in there, little pieces that probably shouldn't even have been in the contract, but anyway, so yeah, let's vote on it.
Okay, any other discussion on removing paragraph 10.2?
So, sorry, just before we vote on that, I just want to understand, so Mr. Weimer has two other proposed amendments? is
We're
that-
going to amend it, I got one too.
Sorry?
I say I got one too, if we're going to be amending it.
Well, let's do them one at a time.
Okay, so if we're doing voting on these separately, then I do have a further comment.
We're voting just specifically on this.
Right,
Yes.
okay. So, one of the main reasons I was supportive of this resolution was the fact that, first off, the applicant has spent about $11 million on this project so far. $51,000 is going to make no difference in terms of their ability to actually build anything. This amount of money is simply going to wrap up all the documents in a form that the public is then able to access easily. I think I'm going to vote for this to support Mr. Weimer's amendment, if for no other reason than the fact that I want these documents to be in the public hands sooner than later. And so therefore I think 6 months should be more than adequate for a CM2H Hill to finish the rest of the documentation and make it available. The other reason I was supportive of this is I want people to understand the way the rules work is if the applicant gives us the money and then we give the money to CM2H Hill, we own the information and therefore it can become public. If we don't approve this, then the applicants can still pay CM2H Hill and the information then belongs to the applicant and it doesn't necessarily become public. So therefore I'm supportive of this and I will vote for this.
Okay, any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Mr. Weimer?
Want me to keep going?
Yep.
Up in section 10.1, right above that, the second sentence, I would move to remove that. The term of this agreement may be extended by mutual agreement of the parties, provided, however, that the agreement is in writing and signed by both parties. I would move to remove that for the same reason.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Can we just clarify that before you, it's the last sentence
The second sentence.
and nothing from the first sentence?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Schroeder?
I was going to have the same clarification that Councilmember Mann. Councilmember Weimer, your proposal is just to remove the second sentence, which is the term of this agreement.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Yeah, my last suggested amendment is on page 138.
No, it's probably mine.
And it's right in the middle where the term of the amendment, and I would like to strike March 13th and replace that with December 31st, 2016.
I'll second that for discussion. So how much time would that give?
4 months.
About 4 months. You know, when we talked about it, it says right in the scope that all the documents will be delivered to us within 2 months. There was some timelines talked about how long it takes to get contracts and stuff into escrow, but it doesn't sound like it ought to take more than twice that amount.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a second. Discussion, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the time it takes to get the money into escrow. I mean, that's nominal. I think the more unknown thing, unless Mr. Schroeder can enlighten us, is whether CM2H Hill has the ready labour available or whether the labour is allocated to other things at the moment.
Yeah, I specifically don't know that to date. It's the escrow money the money getting into escrow is the notice to proceed. It's the ability for CH to accomplish this work. Yes, the work's going to take eight weeks or 2 months. So if we only have 4 months for the contract term and we have no ability to extend it, I guess I have a little bit of concern there. I believe that the March 17th date allows for the work to get accomplished. Once the work's accomplished, as I indicated earlier, those invoices are taken care of, the contract terms are completed, there's no way to extend it. So then, in all practicality, the contract is complete once we get it.
Ms. Brenner?
Yeah, I'm not going to support that motion. I want this to be over, and I don't care if it's 2 extra months one way or another. I think we've made it very clear through the other amendments, and what I don't want to do is do something that they can come back to us and say, well, you know, we're not going to work with this, and I mean, it's kind of like I want them to finally get off the pot, and I just want it done.
Mr. Sadoo?
I was just sitting and calculating that there's 400 some hours of total work outlined in here. That's like 30 man days. And the way I look at it, there are probably more than 5 or 6 people involved in this thing, or maybe more. And it comes down to a couple of days per person to finish what they're trying to do. So, and of course, I totally understand they have a workforce, they probably diverted them to other projects, they have to take time off that and come and start working on that and trying to find the people who are actually familiar with that. You get a new person, give them 5 boxes, say organize it, probably take more time to do that if they don't know what they're working on. Looking at that and everything, I think December 31st is not unreasonable for 30-man day work. That's what my opinion is.
Any other comments?
If I may,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say, as a compromise, I would ask that the council consider a bit longer. If 6 months is too long, I think 3 months is too short, and 3 months is, you know, October, November, December gone. The reason being is that they not only have to do this internally to CH2M Hill, is they have all of the sub-consultants that have to provide the information to them to archive. And if I sign anything in this organization, it's contract extensions that have no dollar amounts attached to them ends up being the biggest thing. Even our bookkeeping system, as good as our finance team is it takes time to get everything working through. And I would allow it to make sure that if we're going to spend this $51,000 for the purpose of getting quality information back that the public, we, and the rest of the technical community can use around the state is let's give them adequate time to put this together. If 3 months is a bit short, if I could encourage you to at least go to 4 at that particular time, I think it gives us a little bit of time to organize it, because it's not all going to come together immediately. There hasn't been a pencil lifted on this thing in 4 or 5 months, and there's a lot of people that they're going to have to round up to be able to make this happen.
Mr. Donovan?
Mr. Weimer, would you consider January 30th then as a friendly amendment to the motion?
No.
All right.
Mr. Sadoo?
But you can vote me down and come up with a new date if you want.
I just wanted to say that half of December is actually dead. You know, it work doesn't get done. And I think allowing January 31st is a good compromise, and I'll support that.
So let's vote on the, sorry.
Okay, we got, the original motion is December 31st, 2016. Any further comments?
I just, if I may, I think actually when you add up 400 days, you work on a 35-hour effective week, it's about 11 weeks work. And then you've got the holidays, so that's
Thanksgiving.
for one person, right? I mean, we don't know what the staffing level, if it's 10 people, obviously it's easy to do. So I think we're creating, in the absence of any feedback from them, I have to assume that we're cutting it too close.
I agree.
So vote.
I really don't think it's going to make a lot of difference to the overall project, whether it's 6 months or 3 months or 4 months. From the project's perspective, it will from getting the work done.
Okay, any further discussion on the?
Well, discussion on what now? Are we talking January 31st?
No, we're
or
talking,
December?
we're still talking December. Going once, going twice?
Well, I don't support, I'm in favor of January 31st.
Let's vote on it.
Let's go ahead and vote on it. So all those in favor of Mr. Weimer's motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No. No.
That fails, 5-2.
Aye. Proposed amendments then.
Okay.
Okay, in terms of page 138, the first would be to terminate on January 30, 2017. And do you want my second one now, or do you want to consider that one?
Let's do one at a time.
Let's do one at a time.
Okay, there we go. That's it.
I second that.
That's been moved and seconded. Discussion, Ms. Brenner.
I almost think like this is just one of those things to make everybody feel better about them. Let's just leave that alone. I'm really concerned. What I don't want to have is a back and forth between the consultant and whoever. I want this over with, but I don't think 2 months one way or another makes any difference, but it's in here. And so they sort of have agreed to this, and I don't want to change it.
Mr. Mann.
I agree with that point by Ms. Brenner. I think we start changing the performance metrics or the performability of this contract, then we're going to run into a back and forth with the contractor. I think we should leave, you know, the money alone and the date alone. And
Well, we have no say about the money.
no, I understand, but my point is being like, let's just set that aside. If we want to talk about the meaning of the language and change it to make it more clear, I think that's very reasonable. So I would urge us to just focus on changing the words to get a little more clarity around what this contract does.
That's my next amendment.
All right, good, because I've got some good ones down here too, but I don't want to mess with the date. I think we're getting to a point where if you're willing to vote for this and you think it's a reasonable task for someone to be undertaking, I don't think we need to change the date. Either vote against the contract overall or vote for it in the basic parameters that they put forward as far as.
Mr. Mann, you convinced me. I take back my amendment.
It was mine.
It's Mr. Donovan's amendment.
I'll take it back.
Whatever.
So you're taking it back?
But I got nothing.
Okay, so now we have, any other amendments?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cards.
So on the paragraph that begins, the general purpose, this is page 138, the general purpose or objective of this agreement is to, and then change the language to say, ramp down consultants' work on the environmental impact statement to comply with blah, blah, blah. So to remove the words provide preparation of and replace with ramp down consultants' work on.
And Mr. Donovan, I've been thinking about that, and I realized ramp down is not exactly a
Any
technical
better
term.
phrase?
Yeah, I came up with provide orderly conclusion of the environmental impact statement regarding the Gateway Pacific Terminal, blah, 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 as more fully.
Sure, I like that.
I like that too.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those.
Look, do you want me to read it to the clerk so that you can get the exact language that we're voting on?
She's shaking her head,
Okay,
yes.
so here's what I was saying that I think Mr. Donovan's motion says. The general purpose or objective of this agreement is to provide orderly conclusion of the environmental impact statement regarding the Gateway Pacific Terminal and BNSF Custer Spur Improvement Project as more fully and definitively described in Exhibit A hereto.
Okay. Mr. Weimer.
I guess I'm just wondering if conclusion of the environmental impact statement means we're finishing the environmental impact statement.
So that's why I had the
No,
words,
it
the
just
ending
means
the consultant's work on this project is ended.
Conclusion of the environmental impact statement as.
Or environmental impact statement process?
Yes, process.
You want the word?
Or concluding the consultant's work
Because Exhibit A is
as
not
of,
finishing it.
yeah, in the current status or something like that. Concluding the consultant's work in the current status.
Well, just concluding the consultant's work, I think will do it.
Yeah, or concluding consultant's work, that's it.
That's pretty clear.
Is Mr. Mann's language?
I would say that with my language, add the word process after environmental impact statement, and because it's fully and definitively described in Exhibit A, I feel like that's
Yeah.
true. Close enough. I mean, we almost voted for it with the old language.
Mr. Brown?
I would actually prefer that the council didn't take a position on inserting a new description of what the scope of work is, but rather borrow from the cover letter that has been given to the county council by the county executive's office. And the language I would propose in lieu of what Mr. Mann has said is to include the words ramp down work for the contract suspension as outlined in the attached scope of work.
Ramp down is kind of a weird term.
Well, it might be a weird term, but the point is that
Well, that's what we're trying to do.
Is that the language that has, if I may ask Mr. Schroeder, is that the language that you have discussed this with the applicant or with CN2HL?
Yeah, in Exhibit A of the contract on page 150, it indicates ramp down activities recommended to ensure the work is closed out in an orderly fashion.
Closed out in an
Sorry,
orderly.
which page are you referring
Let's
to?
use the same
All right.
language, yeah.
Page
That's-
150 of the packet, a certain section of the last sentence.
Oh, yeah.
It's closed out in an orderly fashion.
I think if we're going, I just think we take a more neutral position if we borrow from the language that's been used elsewhere.
Well,
Does Mr. Mann accept that?
You understand where I'm coming from?
I just can't get around the fact that ramp down just doesn't sound like a real
Professional
term.
term,
Okay,
yeah.
well, you're not a millennial, let's get this.
It sounds like slang or something. What are you guys talking about over here? If you
Well,
guys,
Mr. Brown is proposing not to use the word ramp down,
Well,
correct?
no, he's.
No,
proposing to
I
use
was,
it.
that's what they have used.
Oh,
in
I
their
see.
discussions.
You're using that whole sentence
I mean,
rather than.
at the point, at the end of the day, it's do all the parties understand what's being meant?
I just have to, I work on contracts a lot, and I don't really understand the need to even change it because it refers to Exhibit A as definitively stating the purpose, and that's where it has all the language about ramping down, so
But I think it's important to the public that the initial statement in the contract does not say that we're starting to prepare an environmental impact statement.
But it refers to Exhibit A that very clearly says that.
But why not
So
just be consistent with Exhibit A?
I just.
The general purpose or objective of this agreement is not to provide the preparation of environmental impact statement.
your point may be valid, but so is Mr. Donovan's. I mean, this is not just about legal application. It's about what the headline in the paper is tomorrow, and et cetera.
Yeah.
Or, the angry blog posts we all have to read, or the letters that we get, et cetera.
Well,
Or examples, not literally.
Okay, so Mr. Mann, you're not accepting Mr. Brown's language?
My motion.
It was my language to help out Mr. Donovan, but it's his motion. You should ask him if he wants to accept it.
What is I actually like Mr. Brown's idea if it said the general purpose or objective of this agreement is for work to be closed out in an orderly fashion.
Yeah.
Consultants' work to be closed out in an orderly
Yeah.
fashion.
yes,
And that's taking from Exhibit A, so we got,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine too.
I like that.
right.
Well, that's what Tyler told us.
I like mine better, but okay.
Well, if you, no, that's
We're
what I
not
wanted
saying
to
ramp
say.
down, because we don't know what that means.
Well,
Okay.
we know, but it's not
So-
a technical term.
Jill, you got that?
You guys got that?
Okay,
No.
so the general purpose or objective of this agreement is to ensure that work is closed out in an orderly fashion. Consultants' work is closed out in an orderly fashion.
And then what are you deleting for the sake of the?
Deleting the words, provide preparation of. So, let's see, how would this work? General purpose of this objective, the objective of this agreement is to ensure that work is closed out in an orderly fashion. Consultants' work is closed out in an orderly, consultants' work on the environmental impact statement is closed out in an orderly fashion.
Okay, any further discussion?
Can we get the clerk, when she's done, to read it back so we know exactly what we're voting on?
She's got it.
I like that.
What's being taped?
Yeah, but I want to know very specifically what we're voting on, because I'm not clear.
Taking the language from Exhibit A and inserting it into the actual first sentence where that begins, the general purpose or objective of this agreement is to ensure that work is closed, consultants' work is closed out in an orderly fashion, or consultants' work on the environmental impact statement is closed out in an orderly fashion.
Regarding Gateway Pacific Terminal, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, leave the rest.
So the only words that are really being deleted would be provide preparation of.
And, yeah.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Any more?
That's it.
Okay, so now we have the main motion. Oh, yes.
I have a question for Tyler, or Jack, sorry. This is not going to be a hard one. It references phase 2 here in the next sentence. And it says this project will be contracted in a phased approach because the depth of the studies and time and cost cannot be foreseen until phase 2 is completed by the consultant and accepted by the county. Is that sentence still relevant?
Yeah, we're currently in phase 2 of the development. Is the sentence completely relevant to this contract? The answer is probably no. But we're currently in phase 2. The budget amounts for phase 2A was number 4 for $7.2 million and number 5 for $2 million. And this is amendment number 5.1 of phase 2, which is a past scope of work when you go back to those past amendments.
So the reason it's almost like a disclaimer on why you're having to have an amendment to the contract amount is because we couldn't possibly foresee it in the beginning because it's a moving target. Okay, then it is relevant. Okay, I understand.
Okay.
I had,
Mr. Donovan, Mr. Sadoo.
I had one question for Tyler. Tyler, you mentioned EAS SharePoint website. Is that a public website? It's only for the participants or the officials? Okay, thanks.
Anything else? We're now voting on the main motion on the.
One last.
One last?
One
Okay,
last.
go ahead.
Page 150.
150, hold on.
Last sentence on the second paragraph.
Wait. 150.
We're back to work being closed out in an orderly fashion and can efficiently be resumed at a future date.
I'm sorry, where are you?
Last sentence of the.
Okay.
I mean, deleting the words "and can efficiently be resumed at a future date" would appeal to me. Was that going to materially change the contract if we did?
Yep. Tyler Schroeder again. I mean, that's specifically in the scope of work and negotiated between the partners or the applicant and CH2M Hill. And really, the intent of this is to compile all the information for use, whether it be from the county or from the public or from an NGO or from ecology or from the applicant, because they paid $11.2 million to go through an EIS process, that it seems appropriate to me that there is some type of use in the future. It's not defined specifically in this section, and so there will be some use in the future from this information.
Wouldn't a better word be then can be efficiently used at a future date rather than resumed? Is that okay?
Again, I'll let council make their wishes.
No, I'm done. Forget it.
It's in the specific scope of work that's been negotiated, that's been discussed. My recommendation is to leave it. I understand your points, but my recommendation is to leave it.
Okay, our motion is to approve for the county executive to amend this per our council amendments. Any last discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, the next item on this agenda was request approval for the county executive to amend the contract between Whatcom County Pacific International Terminals and BNSF Railway Company for reimbursement of all costs and fees and the scope of work and budget of Phase 2 in the amount of $51,085. This received a recommendation of 3-0 and is so moved.
Okay, we have that motion before us. Discussion? Mr. Weimer.
I guess, I think Executive Lau said that the language in here needs to mirror the other language that we did, and I'm not seeing what language in here needs to change, but.
Yeah, this contract adopts the amendment that council just passed.
Okay.
So I don't believe there is specific language that needs to be changed in here to be consistent with the changes, because that's already done in the CH2M Hill.
That's the way it looked to me, but I wanted to make sure.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'm not going to propose an amendment. I just want to mention that in attachment A of this contract, it had the language that from page 138 that we just changed. It just says continue the preparation of an environmental impact statement. You know, again, I think that I'm almost just saying that so you know when you're talking to them about it. I don't think we actually need to change it.
That's a valid point.
Well, for clarity, why don't we change it?
Okay, I guess you could.
Well,
No.
No, again, I mean, it gets back to the discussion about referring specifically to attachment A, and we just went through some discussion in regards to attachment A and the language associated with that contract. And so what's going to be in there is amendment number 5.1 of the contract between the county and CH2M Hill. And so the language that you just changed on page 138 of the packet, which is this language at the bottom, to specifically refer to the closing out of the work, will be in that attachment. So there might be a slight deviance of language, but I believe that it's already taken care of.
I mean, you might want it to say discontinue the preparation of the environmental impact statement.
Well, continue to get it ramped down. It's, you know, it's all,
No,
just leave it.
I'm fine with that. I just thought it was worth Tyler knowing about more than anything. Just trying to be helpful.
Okay, any further discussion? Mr. Brown?
yeah, I'm just wondering, again, you know, I'm a belts and suspenders kind of guy on this stuff. Just wondering if we shouldn't, at the end of the attachment A language, add the words as approved by the Whatcom County Council on today's date.
We don't approve the
No, the attachment, the description of the attachment. They were suggesting at the end of this is on page 162. On the end of page 162, to add to the description of the attachment at the end, as approved by the Whatcom County Council on September 13th, 2016.
Do we usually do that on contracts? Yeah.
Ms. Brenner?
Karen, do we usually do that wording on contracts as approved by the Whatcom County Council?
I've never seen it in a contract. I don't think it matters one way or the other.
Yeah, the only reason I'm even suggesting it is because we've amended what the exhibit has been described, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do we have a second from
Yeah,
Mr.?
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Now you want the vote on the full thing.
Now vote on the full thing. Maybe.
Oh, you're funny.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, there was nothing else from finance.
Thank goodness.
Oh, I think I'm next.
Okay, so on to Public Works, Health and Safety.
Yeah, let's see, where are we? We're done with here we go. We discussed and voted on a resolution amending Resolution 2015-025 and order vacating a portion of Delta Line Road. There was a small little mistake in the lining up of the property, and it doesn't affect anybody except the people who want to have this happen. So we voted 3-0 to recommend approval.
Okay, the motion is to approve this resolution. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Planning.
We had in planning today a discussion on the draft public participation plan for comp plan amendments, the yellow alternative version. I think we made a couple of amendments. I don't have those in front of me, but it comes forward to the whole council for acceptance, 3-0, and I so move.
Okay, we have that motion in front of us. Ms. Brenner?
Well, okay, you are including the amendment about public hearings for
Yep,
level
that
1, 2?
passed.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item had no committee assignment. It's held over from our last meeting. Ordinance amending Whatcom County Code Title II, Administration and Personnel, to add language related to an increase in the number of Whatcom County Council districts. What's the wishes of the council?
Move approval?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Ken Mann,
Yes.
Satpal Sidhu,
Yes.
Carl Weimer,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
That passes unanimously. We're on to the executive appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. Request confirmation of the county executive's appointment of Amy Ellsworth to the Whatcom County Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Introduction items. We have one that needs clarifying before we go any further. And it's the interim ordinance for the moratorium. There was some question on the title. You want me to just read these into the record? Would that be the easiest? Okay, it's in the title. The last two lines would be the shipment of unrefined fossil fuels not to be processed, and that or consumed is deleted. That's not supposed to be in there at Cherry Point. That's the first clarification. The second one is on the fifth whereas, and I'll just read the whole whereas. Whereas during the comprehensive plan review process, the Whatcom County Council received many individual public comments on fossil fuel.
On unrefined.
No, delete the word unrefined.
It's underlined, it's not deleted.
No, it's supposed to be deleted because this is the comments. This is not the actual moratorium.
I know, but
The comments we received were on fossil fuels.
Okay.
Yeah. Transshipment, transport, and transfer from Cherry Point, and then added, this is the added language, related to the protection of, the health of Whatcom County's environment, economy, and residents. Yeah, that's, Mr. Brown has clarified the language.
No, I remember the economy one, but the.
Well, the sentence didn't work. That's why they added those other
To
words.
protect the health of
Yeah.
Whatcom County's environment, economy, and residents. Yes, it does.
So, Mr. Chair, for the sake of good process, I'd like to move that we adopt what you just said to replace the language in that whereas.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, Ms. Brenner?
Could you read it again, because mine doesn't say the same.
Yeah, this has been added. This is what
Okay,
Mr.
well-
Brown clarified for.
But the wording does work the way it is, so that's why I'm,
No, it really didn't.
okay, go ahead, say it.
Whereas the comprehensive plan review process, the Whatcom County Council has
What?
received many individual public comments on fossil fuel transshipment, transport, and transfer from Cherry Point related to the protection of the health of Whatcom County's environment, economy, and residents.
Yeah.
So you have a motion and a second for that?
Yes.
Yep.
Do we have any discussion? Ms. Brenner?
Now, the green ones we're putting in here because they've changed. The other amendments are there. There's other things.
Correct. Everything that's in bold and underlined is what you changed.
Is all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Brenner?
This is on for introduction, and at some point it's going to be voted on. I'm not happy with it, and I'm not going to vote for it eventually, but I guess it's got to, I'm not going to just hang everybody up by making a motion that nobody's going to support tonight of pulling it.
Okay, I would ask the clerk, once we amend this, would we be able to package it with the rest of the introduction items? Yes. Okay. All right, so on the amendment I just read into the record, any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Now we are items, introduction items 1 through 5. Do I have a motion to introduce?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0. And that brings us to committee reports. We had other things in planning.
Yes, we did, and if I can remember what they were, we'll be all set, huh?
VRBOs.
We talked about three different things in planning today. One was some proposed amendments to Title 20 and Title 23, the shoreline management area. We're trying to bring those forward related to bed and breakfast and vacation rentals, bring those forward at the same time. So the resolution forwarding the Title 23 shoreline management stuff to ecology will be coming to us. That will give staff time to prepare the whole way we're going to register people and what the fees will be and those types of things. So that was a good discussion, and we'll be seeing that resolution coming back at us. And we also had a discussion of a proposed ordinance adopting amendments to the Whatcom County Code, Title 20, zoning related to commercial industrial land uses in Lammerts. And that will also, that's scheduled for introduction, and we just introduced that, so we're good to go.
Okay, then you had one other item on natural resources.
We did, that item was pulled.
The other one.
Oh, the other one.
LID.
Yeah, we had a good discussion in natural resources this morning of proposed amendments to a variety of chapters in Chapter 20, incorporating low-impact development throughout the county and making it consistent. Currently, we have a number of different low-impact development and stormwater regulations in different watersheds, and this will kind of bring those all together and make it a lot more easy for people to understand which applies to them. And we made some suggestions for them, and it'll be coming back at us, I believe, in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brown, you had one other item on finance, the presentation on benefit services.
Oh, yes, sorry, Mr. Chair. So we had a presentation from Gallagher Benefit Services on the report on the comprehensive market analysis to determine the county's competitive pay structure and related pay practices for unrepresented employees, and the net result As I said, the county is pretty well on par with equivalent jurisdictions in the way it's compensating its unrepresented employees.
Ms. Brenner?
Yeah, and my understanding was through that contract, we were supposed to get comparisons of external and internal inconsistencies, and we didn't get the internal ones. And so I want to make sure that there are employees who, when they're doing the same kind of job, have the same kind of amount of, history with the county, length of time they've worked for the county and all that, that their pays line up with each other, and that is not happening. The other thing, too, was that we're going to try to reduce the amount of classifications. Apparently, in the military, they've got, 65 or less than 100 classifications for these 35,000 or lots of military people, and we have hundreds and hundreds for less than 1,000. So we've got work to do to try and
Streamline.
What?
Streamline.
Streamline, yeah. Okay, in a fair way to streamline, that's going to be.
Okay, so we'll go, is there any other items of business?
I don't know if this is the right time to bring this up, but at the end of
Yeah,
our.
I have some, actually.
You have some?
I have some items of business.
Oh, okay.
But it's just fine, there it is. We had two other things that we need to talk about. The first one is the budget review schedule that we were, that Dana was presenting to us. So does anybody have any, are you looking for suggestions of changes, or what are we looking for?
The executive proposed that we meet on Monday, October 24th, and I had, I believe, 4 of you that said that Monday wasn't going to work for you. So now we're back to Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I wanted to kind of be able to speak with Jack, who I see is not here anymore. I'm just not sure. I'm confused what we're going to do. I've heard ideas of not having every department come and present to council. I just kind of want to get them an idea of how the council wishes to proceed.
Okay, Ms. Brenner?
Well, I would like to see Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'm sorry if the executive can't make that one meeting, but we've got a deputy executive who will definitely be able to make the meeting, I'm sure. And I just, this is not our fault that we're getting this shoved down our throats so much so fast. We don't, the charter or whatever it is says that we need at least a certain amount of days. And every year we get this thing at the very last minute. Why can't we get it a little bit earlier? Even if we got the materials before the vacation, I could have, and I would have gone over a lot of it during vacation time. So maybe nobody else cares to do it, but I just get tired of getting this stuff, a lot of stuff, important stuff, at the very last possible day it can be given to us. And I don't think it's fair to the public, and I don't think it's fair to the council. So I think we should stick with the Tuesday, Thursday stuff. I'm a little concerned on that one day, election day, where we have our meetings on Wednesday, and yet we're going to have this meeting all day on Tuesday too. When I sit through a day of budget stuff, I need a second day to kind of go over things and see what I'm doing, especially since you guys upped the amount of money the executive can spend without our authority. So I don't think it's fair I don't think it's a good idea to have those meetings 2 days in a row, because it doesn't, that's how I process stuff.
I'd like to bring up the topic of whether we want to spend 2 days having presentations from each department head. That's been tradition in the way we've done it, and I generally don't find it that helpful. That may not sound like it makes a lot of sense, but when it comes to the budget, their presentations generally aren't that helpful. So I'd rather have them submit something in writing to us that highlights, you know, what needs they have that they requested from the executive that weren't met. Maybe if they want to highlight the changes, positive or negative, from this budget, from their last budget. But I'd rather have all that in writing, because I find that when it's in person, it becomes more of a cheerleading effort about how great their department is. And all our departments are great, and it's just not that helpful when it comes to prioritizing our budget. So I'd opt for eliminating those 2 full days of meetings and substitute them for the days where we actually need to have substantive discussion about altogether about what we're going to do.
What days would those be scheduled?
I don't know. But
second
if we're short of days where we can all be together,
I
those
like
are
your
the
ideas.
items that we should strike from our agenda.
Okay, so we will take that as a motion then.
And I
So we have
second
a process to decide this.
Sure, okay.
The motion, just to simplify it, would be to eliminate the departmental presentations.
Yeah.
Well, and have them in writing. I want the material.
We need the information.
Right.
Yeah. And it's been seconded.
Yeah, sooner the better.
I was going to say that I like that idea. One of the things is that we got to have at least one meeting or presentation where the county executive presents the budget. Is that true?
I don't think we.
Not knowing that process.
What
Like,
we've, sorry.
are we gonna get the budget in a packet and that's it? Or is somebody going to make the first presentation from the administration, what they are proposing for all the budget? But I like the idea of not having every department head come in and give a presentation, but we should have the ability that when we are discussing certain departments, we are able to ask that department head to be present so that we can ask questions, or the department head has the opportunity to present his case to whatever we are proposing or we are asking questions about. So that would be more efficient process rather than going on for 2 days for presentations.
So was that included in your idea that we would have the initial, the executive would present the budget?
I'm not proposing to change anything in this motion other than to sort of save those 2 days of meetings for something other than what they've been used for.
Sure.
And I would love to have the executive present his budget to us and have all the department heads here, and we could ask them questions as we sift through it all, but I mean, that's a different issue. I would really like to ascertain whether we can get rid of those in-person 2 days of department head presentations first.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, as much as I would like to save that 2 days, I actually think we need it. Need the opportunity to do
What?
the Q&A. That's my opinion. I'm probably outvoted, but that's my opinion.
Brennan?
I very much support it, and I think it's really important that we get it in writing as soon as possible, and then we can work on it for longer periods of time. And when I want to have ample time for us to ask questions, but I don't want to do it the day we get it or anything. I want to make sure we get it and we can go through it, and then if we have questions, put them in writing and bring them up at a meeting too. And at that point, that's why I don't agree with the way Councilmember Sadoo said that. I don't want to get a presentation on something when we get it and have all these people there and I don't even know what to ask, and it sounds great, and then I start reading it and I'm going, what? So no, I want to make sure we do it in that kind of order.
Mr. Schroeder?
Yeah, so Tyler Schroeder, Deputy Executive. I just kind of want to walk through to make sure I'm actually on the same page as this conversation. And so my understanding is the budget will be delivered the week of October 18th to council. There'll be department discussion and executive presentation to council on October 24th, which is the Tuesday. And so that'll be the opportunity for the executive to give that dialogue. There will also be all day on Thursday, the 26th, an opportunity to have some department question and answer. I hear the request for some department in writing up front, and so I'll take that back and see what I can accomplish. However, I think the opportunity to have that question and answer would still be somewhat beneficial. The question today was to see if council was available on Monday, the 23rd.
Just the 24th.
The 24th. And it sounds like it does not going to work, and so we will take that back and we'll continue with the schedule that we had in place.
So does that mean that 2 days of department head presentations were already off the schedule?
No, they're on the schedule. And I hear you guys indicating today that you don't want that. I don't hear what the body is asking yet. What I did try to indicate is that I hear some requests for in-writing indication of where the department's perspective is and trying to get that up front, not only just the budget document. So I will try to accomplish that, but I still think there's benefit in keeping that Thursday open in case there is some question and answer that you guys want to have with the departments.
Which day is that?
It's the 25th, I'm sorry, the 27th.
The 27th is currently scheduled as what, as far as you know, Tyler?
Scheduled departmental presentations.
Oh, okay, so
But we're
that's
not
the
gonna
day
have-
we're talking about. Okay, fine. So I think my motion is that the 27th should not necessarily be just a stream of presentations. They should have submitted their written version of their presentation by that day, and we can use that day to schedule Q&A, or maybe we'll have Forrest, be compiling suggestions or budget ideas that we want to change amongst ourselves, that Forrest can be compiling, kind of like we did in the comp plan. Sorry, Forrest. And I think that would be our better use of time on the 27th.
Mr. Weimer.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what we're talking about. I think oftentimes the departmental presentations, we schedule a pretty big slot of time for those, and if we could get a lot of that kind of presentation stuff in writing, still schedule the department heads to come in that day, but it might be much more concise for just question and answers about what we read in writing versus having half an hour with the department head and they speak for 20 minutes and then we run out of time for questions.
Yeah, so we could just call that a work session on the 27th.
Yeah.
Ms. Brenner?
You just said one thing, though, I totally agree with you, except for, you said that we get the stuff in writing by that day. I want to get the stuff in writing at least a week ahead, maybe more, but at least a week ahead, because I'm not good at listening to somebody and trying to read something at the same time.
Mr. Brown?
I agree with getting this stuff, a week or 2 weeks ahead of time. I would just like to say some of these departments, we don't really get any presentations from them in any detail except during the budget cycle, and I feel, amongst other things, an obligation to listen to them talk about their plans and their projects for the next 12 months or so. So I think we both have a duty to the public to listen to that, but we also have a duty to the department heads to show respect for the work that they're doing. So I'm a little reluctant to sort of just give them a cursory opportunity to just answer our questions as opposed to talk about what their hopes and dreams are for the next 12 months.
Ms. Brenner?
Well, I disagree. I feel like we get it in writing, we put it on the website so that anybody who wants to see what's happening is happening, and it's their responsibility to put in writing what they were going to say to us about what their needs are, and that we have 2 weeks for that. Just the thought of having them come and say it orally after we've gotten it 2 weeks earlier, to me, is kind of a waste of time. I'd rather us spend that time asking specific questions and getting answers.
Okay, any other?
I had one question. Tyler, is it possible to get this thing by, say, first week of October or 10th of October? No.
No.
Okay.
Not the official executive recommended budget.
Okay.
I mean, we currently are going through revenue projections, administration cost allocation, tort monies, Those are work that we're going through in preparation, consistent with how we've done it in the past.
So we're gonna get that like a day before, or
You'll get that the
present-
week before these meetings.
Week,
So
1 week.
October 18th for the meetings to happen on the 24th, starting all the way through the end of November.
Okay, so we have 1 week to,
To digest, to
Digest
then
and-
get some presentation, to then
Yeah.
have the work session.
okay.
Ms. Brenner?
You just said have some presentations. I don't want oral presentations. I want questions and answers.
What I would like to do is be able to provide a little background, a little indication of
Yeah.
what the executive budget is.
Yeah.
I know that
Put it in writing.
I know that Executive Laus would like to go through and show the capital projects section of the budget. We were talking about being able to deliver a little bit better understanding from the program, department division standpoint, so you'll see where those revenues are going to go. So if there's indications on where the council's interested in maybe changing some revenues specific to programs, it'll be a little bit easier presentation this year. And so we want to organize the council to that presentation by giving a presentation to them.
Ms. Brenner?
Well, I don't know, but I really don't want a presentation and put it in writing. Whatever he's gonna say, he can dictate to one of those things and somebody could write it up. I don't wanna go into all these presentations.
Okay, I believe the motion's that's on the floor is just the departmental presentations, correct, Mr. Mann? Mm-hmm. That's all that's on the table that we're cutting out. So any other discussion on that?
But we'll still see, do we have a schedule of brief meetings then with department heads coming in here? Or is it just we then read that and decide who we want to have come in?
Sounds like we would have a work session.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they would be available for questions.
that.
We might,
Perfect.
I have one question. So does that mean we need to try to get all the department heads available for an entire day to sit out here and wait for you to see if they have questions? Or are you going to invite specific folks that need to be here for the day or in the morning?
I
or the
would do
afternoon?
what we've done in the past. I'm kind of scheduled out,
Yeah.
like half in the morning, not, in a row, like one per half hour or something.
That's what we were doing.
so we're pseudo, just without the presentation.
Without the yeah.
It's organized Q and A.
It's Q&A without the fluff.
Yeah.
So we're still going to have a day where I schedule departments individually.
I know this is.
Yes, yes.
Of course, yeah.
And
But
try to get
give
them all in
give
one
them-
day.
Give them appointments during the day, I think is what the proposal is.
They're not just all on call.
So you want to try, everybody in one day?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Madam Clerk seems somewhat reticent.
I think we've scheduled about 15 hours for all departments in years past total, so I just have to figure out.
Well, 10 hours of it was their presentations, though.
That we're gonna get in writing this year, ahead of time.
So, okay, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
I'm glad you will.
Mr. Weimer?
I guess, sitting through budgets a number of times, I like this idea of not listening to the presentations and going right to the Q&A, but I know for our two newest members down there, they don't get to hear from a lot of these department heads very often at all, so just want to make sure you two are comfortable on not getting those presentations, because you won't hear a lot of stuff about, like, the courts that you'll never hear about other than during those presentations.
No, we can ask that
Oh.
stuff. Uh-oh.
Go ahead, Mr. Long.
I was just going to offer a thought on this in terms of the budget presentations. There may be an opportunity I could work with Tyler to maybe try and put these presentations to more structure and a strict time limit as far as the amount that they could present to try and address all these issues.
And the stuff in advance written.
And the stuff in advance written, but try to have the presentations be more concise than 20 minutes of talking, and maybe say you can have this many slides in this much time, and just a thought. That's how, yeah.
That's not my motion.
No.
I was gonna say, I'm comfortable with getting in writing and then formulate my questions, and then have a 1 hour slots or whatever, maybe half-hour slots as you schedule, so that maybe 3 people in the morning, 3 people in the afternoon, or however it works out from your past experience. I don't even remember how many total departments we have. So, yeah, I feel comfortable that we can take it from there and then have specific questions to each department.
Mr. Donovan, is that reasonable?
Yeah, as long as there's the opportunity for questions and I've got material in advance.
Yeah.
In enough
I think
Okay. Sounds like we're, Mr. Mann?
Just one note of reassurance for those people watching at home, but, in past years, even when we've had presentations, some have gone long, some have been short, and department heads are in the building, or they're nearby, and we've called them and asked them to come earlier or later, and we've been able to mix and match, and it's not like it runs like a total Swiss clock around, this time of year anyway, this process anyway. So I think we'll be able to make it go.
I had one more suggestion, since we talked about new members and having time with the departments. I think we should create something, nothing to do with the budget, is that when the new people come on the council, that they have a scheduled 1 hour over first month or whatever at their own time, that it's a structured time with each department head. I think that's something I missed in the sense that learning about the county, I was trying to learn on my own which department does, what they do, and what their budget is and everything. If we can structure it as a different thing. But I think that would be very, very helpful for a new council member to have spent an hour, and they can talk about budget and all this, what they do, how they do, what the problems are. That would be very, very helpful to new people.
Yeah, that's how they did it when I first got on the Bellingham City Council. It was
Yeah.
almost like speed dating, though. It was pretty fast. And I think they gave them like 12 minutes a department. We did it all in one afternoon.
Yeah, but I'm proposing that let the member and the department head find the time, but within the first month of
Yeah,
that
that's
member,
what they did.
they should get 1 hour, 1-to-1. That will be the best training
less if they
for the
want.
new council members.
Yes.
Well, we used to have retreats,
Yeah.
and we don't do that anymore. And maybe that's
We didn't invite department heads to those retreats, so that was just
There
the
weren't some
council's
there?
inter-workings retreats, generally.
okay.
Let's vote on this.
Let's vote on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion.
What's the specific motion? Well, she just needs it for the record. Do you know what the specific motion is?
Do you?
No. I want clarity, that's all.
The motion is to go with, have the department heads submit what would be their presentation in writing. And rather than have a presentation from each department head, we would have a work session day, and they would be assigned a slot, and we would deal with them.
Do we have a
Ask
date
him
for that?
questions.
The 27th.
27th.
Fine.
Okay? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. The other item is the removal of the GPT language from the open session section of the agenda. So I
I'll move
can't
approval.
remember why we held it on.
I remember. I think
5 weeks ago, but
I don't-
we brought it up, discussed it, and some people, I think, wanted to talk with Karen before we discussed this.
Nobody
But
wanted
then
to. Poor Karen.
We didn't, so. That's the only reason I remember it
Yeah, I think
not
you're
going
right.
forward.
I move approval.
approval of removing it. Do we have a
Yes.
second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I've thought on a couple of council meetings whether we do need to add something in the language here that audience members can speak to the council on issues related to the council business, as opposed to something that may be completely unrelated. Over the course of being on the council, we've had several people who've gotten up and spoke on subjects for which we have no control, no
You
influence.
can't, I mean, people are allowed
Yeah.
to do whatever they want at open session.
No, but the point is that one of the things that we do that I really like is that we don't, like most jurisdictions, limit the open session to 20 minutes. We give everybody an opportunity to speak. And as you all well know, sometimes that means we've been here for 3 or 4 hours. And I will stay here for 3 or 4 hours to give everybody the opportunity to have their say. The only thing I think that we want to consider is to give them an opportunity to have their say on a topic that is relevant to the council and what we can actually do.
That is the language we
There's no, you're going to put the chair in a horrible position of having to adjudicate whose comments are relevant to the work of the county council or not. And
It's open session.
And we're already doing that because the first sentence is, during open session, audience members will have the 3 minutes to address the council on any issue relevant to county
Right,
business.
and I know, we got the language in what you read out.
But he wants you to enforce it.
No, I'm just saying, it's not, no. I mean, you already say it, I agree with you. I mean, I'm not proposing anything different than what you already announced, but it's not in this.
Oh, not in there.
Right, so there's nothing in writing to advise members of the public that that's what you're.
in advance, you mean?
Yeah, just, that's all. I'm not proposing anything actually different than what we've been saying. It's just that we don't put it in writing.
I don't care. The guy talks to us about grizzly bears. I think that's interesting. I like hearing his, he's worked on this for years.
I want to make clear, I'm not singling anybody out.
No, but I like hearing what people have to say. It has nothing to do with the council.
I say.
Okay, let's focus on the GPT language
I move
first.
approval. To take
So
it
it's
out.
been moved and seconded to remove that. Is there any discussion?
Why are we taking it out?
Because it's not relevant anymore.
Because we've already, that ship sailed.
Yeah, I think it's become de facto. We're talking about it, people are talking about it, the applicants are coming here talking about it. It's all in public session.
All right.
We're way over.
I'm just envisioning our meetings suddenly becoming GPT.
There it already are.
Well, more so.
I would like to just
I
take
mean,
it
6
out.
hours of GPT at open session would get kind of old.
Well,
I think we'll be seeing the same people.
but we're already closing it out, so I just.
Okay. No, I think you're right. I'm being snarky. You're right. We should take it out.
And if there are that many people who want to talk about it, yeah, it's good.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, if I can just remind people, the Army Corps of Engineers has rejected the proposal. The rejection is subject to appeal.
I know.
So, and I think they have several years, if I understand, what is it? We're getting an indication by sign language that it is 7 years to which to
I
appeal
don't
it.
care. I want it out of there. Just leave,
All I'm saying is that I think it's misleading to say to people the thing is done, because it's not done until the applicant says it's done.
No, I'm not saying it's
That's
done,
not
I'm
what
just
we're
saying that
saying.
we have kind of evolved into, we are letting people already speak and we're not cutting them off, and we can't avoid conversations about it, either related to the comp plan or this moratorium. So it doesn't serve a function anymore.
Well, we've been letting them speak because we brought this issue up during the comp plan or now that because we're controlling pass-through contracts, which we previously weren't. We previously saw none of the stuff of the process of the approval of the CM2H Hill contracts, and therefore had no discussion at the council level because it was not something that we approved because we didn't touch pass-through contracts. So that's changed, but since we changed the purchasing ordinance, and what's also changed is we were doing the comp plan discussion about Cherry Point.
And we're going to be getting this back from the planning commission.
Yes, we are.
That's gonna.
Anyway.
Ms. Brenner?
Well, the whole point is we're making a position here by getting rid of it and just doing what we do, and it's going to be much more comfortable for more people. And if we're all biased, then they'll have to go through that other process anyway. I mean, it's been a joke having that in there, and some people have obeyed it and some people haven't, and I'm tired of it, and people are tired of it. And we're supposedly closing this out, so that sounds more like we're closing it out.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, that's the last items I had,
Good.
which,
The one right in front of you.
this,
So I just want to propose anyway that we address any issue. We repeat what you do in your verbal announcement, which just says, so address the council on any issue relevant to county business. That's all. Simply put that in the same language.
You want to insert that into?
Yeah, I mean, he reads it out in the public session anyway. And I think it just gives guidance to people that this is this is the area where we have an ability to influence and react to people's requests. If someone wants to talk about something that's, say, happening in Egypt, for example, we have no influence.
okay, so you're proposing to put that language into this?
Yeah, so it says here, during open session, audience members can speak to the council on any issue relevant to county business.
And not scheduled for a public hearing.
And the rest of it, I'm just inserting those words.
Ms. Brenner?
I'm not supporting it. Open session is open session. People should be able to come to us and speak about anything. There's plenty of things they talk to us about where we don't have jurisdiction, but we can use our position to help them. And I don't want to restrict that at all.
Then why do we have the chair say this verbally?
Because he wants to say it. I don't know. I just don't think we need it.
And I will say that there is one item of county business that can't be discussed, and that's hearing examiner appeals that are before you, so it's somewhat misleading to say that.
And that's a legal thing, yeah.
Well, that's irrelevant. I mean, again, we don't say something in writing, but we then say something verbally, so.
Well,
We'll tell the chair to change what he says.
or just, it's never been a problem.
Mr. Chair, I also think, and I totally get where you're coming from on this, but at the same time, almost anything can be. If somebody, what was your example, Egypt? The council passes, hopefully not, but resolutions on sweeping things sometimes that we are not in control of at all, and these are opportunities.
That's the city council. We don't do it.
The county council has done it. Yes, we have.
But there are people who, they might want to talk about Egypt and use this venue, either if it's just talking to an audience on camera, or trying to get us to pass some resolution about something we have no control over. I think we need to allow that, and even if we do use that language, people are still going to think, well, you could pass a resolution on Egypt. So
I didn't want to say this on camera, but I don't think I've got any choice. So I've heard of some jurisdictions that they're having problems with people using the open public session to advertise their businesses, amongst other things.
Well, we haven't really had
walking
that
with a big sign
problem.
on.
I mean, in some,
in 3 minutes, you let them talk about anything for 3 minutes.
So?
Well, if we start having those issues.
do you know how much time we're wasting on this? Excuse me, but I really,
If I don't appear to have any support for this, I'll just drop the issue and I'll just let it play out.
So if you drop that, you want me to, I'll drop that. If you drop that, I'll drop that.
he'll drop it. He won't say it.
That being, we can't.
Because
he says it,
I didn't
but
make
now he
this up.
won't say
I was given this, so that's what we've been doing for a long
No,
time.
I like you saying it. I think
You like me saying it?
Because he wants it.
just because,
Okay.
I just wanted to repeat what you've been saying.
Yeah, yeah.
And every chair for a long time has been saying it, so it's pretty
There's this.
anyway.
So we've tried. We can say that. We tried to have relevant business.
I'm not sure we're having it
You-
now.
yeah,
I don't think so. Are you withdrawing your motion?
I'm withdrawing.
Okay.
By the way, it's 5:30 in London. He just got here from London last night, was it?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
He's doing great.
Okay, so is there any other business?
What do you mean, other, okay. No, like,
No, there isn't. Council member updates.
Nothing.
Mr. Mann.
Well, I had a good vacation, and I just want to thank everyone again for enabling me. The you guys picked up the slack up here, and my council colleagues. Staff was amazing. Thank you. Tyler and Forrest also were good to me in my absence and just kept me up to date on stuff and represented me at meetings when needed. So just really thanks to everyone for that. I really do appreciate it. And I know that it's actually is more work for everybody else when one of us is gone. So I appreciate it. It might have been less work for you, yeah.
Nothing.
I got nothing.
Okay. My older son and daughter-in-law, Wesley, who's now a King County prosecutor, who interned here, and lots of people know him from here. He and Daphne, his wife, had their wedding reception in Seattle. And I'm sort of inventing my bucket list. And on the list, this last time went down there, and I got to say, Wes is like a lot of times real uptight about me because he doesn't think I'm normal. And but I was down there, and we stayed overnight. Everybody stayed overnight, so nobody drank and drove. But they were dancing, doing this Backstreet Boys stuff, and so I just went out and danced with them. And they both said I'm a wonderful dancer, and they were so glad I danced with them. So that's my bucket list is getting fuller because I got to dance with my two boys together. You should have seen them. They were getting pretty gross. But it was so much fun. It was really fun.
Mr. Donovan?
I can't follow that.
Me neither.
Nor do you, nor should you. Mr.
I'm
Tadeu?
fine. Nothing.
Okay, so with no other business before the council, we
Yep.
are adjourned.
Thank you.
This is the third time.